everyone, welcome back to the Evermore YouTube channel. You're probably wondering, what day is it? No one has a goddamn clue because it's Christmas holidays, but I'll tell you what day it is. It's Monday night. Me and Mark are back on a Monday. We're asking the same question we ask every single Monday as best we can. What's going on, Mark? What's going on with you?
Well, I've finished watching Klopp moaning again, so there you go. That's been my day. The end of the why Klopp's moaning about something.
New year, same old Turkish teeth bastard. Whinge. What a prick. Happy New Year, by the way, mate. Happy New Year to you.
Happy New Year to you, and Happy New Year to everybody out there.
Absolutely,
Hope it's been a good one for you.
Yes, well, we're back with a What's Going On, the first one of 2023. We've got a few bits to talk about, a little bit of crack, a little bit of black and white, a little bit of this and that. Before we do, a little bit of housekeeping, though. If you haven't already, please click that like and subscribe button. We'd love you to come and join us. Mark needs to update this graphic. That's going to give him a gentle reminder to do that. We are now on 2,219 subscribers, which is amazing. So thank you so much to all you wonderful mad bastards who clicked that button. We've had a phenomenal year as Evermore in 2022. We hope to have just as good of a year in 2023. You guys are more than welcome to come along and join us. All free content. We don't charge anybody a penny for this. Some people are minting it, which you'll find out in a minute, but it is a struggle for a lot of people, so we don't charge anybody just to listen to us bastards moan and whinge about football and have a laugh while we're there. We are live as well, as always, so jump in the comments. We had a few of you already in there. We've got Throckley and Beyond, your new name. Click sub if you haven't, Bonnie Lad or Bonnie Lass. Looking forward to hearing yours. Absolutely. We've got Tommy Gill, even to you too, bud. We've got Mark Hodge. How you doing? Jack's there. Happy New Year to you, Jack. I hope you had an absolute belter one, mate, whatever you were doing. And Gibbo's in the house, evening to you too. So we might as well get stuck into it. We've had loads of stuff to talk about, but we are going to talk about the match against Leeds, which was a bit of a shit end to the year, really, one of the better word, because we have got the Arsenal game coming up, and we'll probably cover that more on Evermore on Wednesday with the boys. But yeah, 0-0 at home, mate. A little bit of a missed opportunity to end the year, end a fantastic year for the Mags, mate, wasn't it? Really.
It turned into one of those games, didn't it? I think I texted you towards the end of it going, I've got a bad feeling about this, because it for all in the world looked as the game went on that sooner or later Leeds would just get one chance, and that would just become, that killer blow at the end. But they didn't really create anything. But it just, try as Newcastle might, they just couldn't create that killer opportunity just to put the game to bed. And fair play to Leeds. They defended resolutely. They shithoused it, for want of a better phrase. They did everything they could to disrupt Newcastle on the day. So do you know what? They came to do a job. They did it. I know we had a bit of a tongue-in-cheek sort of tweet afterwards, didn't we, about Jesse March's celebration?
Some of us did.
Which went down a storm. Honestly, if you haven't seen the tweet, I put one out that just says, just Jesse March. I picture Jesse March celebrating, and I just put, just Jesse March celebrating mediocrity. Happy New Year, everyone. Bit of tongue-in-cheek, bit of a laugh. Holy shit. What happened to football fans' sense of humour?
Well, I mean, to be fair, though, go on. Sorry, mate. Go on. You're ranting. Go on. Finish.
I was going to say, my little rant for the night is we used to be able to take the mickey out of each other. We used to be able to have a little bit of friendly banter between clubs. And my God, the responses and even from Newcastle fans, to be fair, was just like, oh, well, I'm not sure that's called for. I mean, come on, just have a laugh. Yeah, you might not find it funny. That's fine. You're allowed. But it's just a bit of a giggle. We sing songs the entire game through about how crap the other side is or how poor the support is. Just have a laugh. Just chill. Just have a laugh. That's all I need. Anyway, ran over.
I can't believe it. 2023 is the year that I'm the calm one and Mark's the one that rants, but nothing's changed. His cat is causing fucking carnage in the background, as always, in case anybody's wondering. I'm waiting for Ash to jump in the comments here. It's a new year, but it's the same old cat causing absolute fucking carnage. We're going to end up being one of them nature documentary shows where we just turn the camera onto the cat, just destroying Mark's entire makeshift studio here. But yeah, as you say, Mark, I mean, I think we've been so used to riding the crest of a wave so high and dominating games. I mean, if anything, had the Leicester game been like the Leeds game, we probably would have understood that one. Fair enough, rusty after the World Cup. Obviously went into Leeds after Leicester full of confidence. And we thought, fucking hell, we're going to steamroller these lot. They're shit, these lot. You know, and to be fair to them, they come and they played ugly, negative football. Some people were getting a bit pissed in the comments saying, "No, we used to be like that," and they were right. We did used to be like that, but we also
Absolutely.
a manager in who was perpetually trapped in a 1992 time warp dimension. Like, remember, like in Superman with that fucking Phantom Zone thing, that's where Bruce was. He was stuck in the glass panel in 1993. So you can't really compare the two sides because we're light years away from that now. But it's okay to be pissed off and be a bit frustrated that we didn't win the game. But I think some fans have gone a little bit over the top with the long staff criticism. Now, if you haven't seen below, below, maybe I've got a link to the website below. I'm just putting it below. If you look at our Twitter handle, our website is there, our new shiny website, where we're trying to get some regular content up there as best as we can. I've just finished up a piece on Sean Longstaff. I think people have been a little bit hysterical talking about selling the lad. Yes, he should have buried the chances that he had, but he's not Bruno Guimaraes. He's not Joe Linton. He's not even John Joe Shelby, in all fairness, in terms of his goal scoring prowess. So I think we should just be a little bit easier on Sean. But make sure you check that out. That should hopefully be on the site, Mark, tomorrow, shouldn't it? For the guys.
It should, as he's furiously typing the link to the website in the comments.
Furiously type the link in the comments below, absolutely. But yeah, so I think it's a bit harsh to turn on Sean completely. You know, he does do a good job for the team. You know, he breaks the play well. He throws his body on the line. He tracks back. He's got so much energy, as does Joe Willock. You know, yes, the transfer window's up, which we'll come to in a minute, and there might be better quality midfielders to sign, and we might very well sign them. But you can't just denounce the job that the likes of Willock and Longstaff have done to help get us third in the table. You know, so I think some people should pump the brakes a little bit there, in all fairness. Billy's in the comments. Good to see you, Billy. He's saying some fans are way too sensitive. You're right. Absolutely, Billy. Totally, mate. You know, like Mark says there, I mean, if you looked at the video after the game, right, you got shit on Twitter, Mark, for saying what you said about Jesse Marsh. There was fans queued up singing to Leeds fans, Jimmy Savali's one of your own. So you can't have the rough without the smooth, mate. Mark's getting a great comment there. I've got to throw this up. Shocking result for Liverpool today. Oh, do you know what, mate? The more and more I see them stutter, the more I'll love it, because Jurgen Klopp has gone from being this really charismatic, funny, quirky manager to the biggest fucking whinge I've ever heard in my life. He sounds like when you let an air out of a balloon really slow. He just sounds like that, moaning like all the time. And I'm sick and tired of him. So long may it continue their losing streak. Absolutely. To coin a phrase in the comments as well, Mark, I don't think we ever delivered. Dive to the floor, like Leeds players did. I mean, there was a bit of shithousey going on, Mark, wasn't there, with Leeds, which was your point, I think.
Yeah, look, you're going to find that on you. And that was some of the comments. That teams are going to do this. It says they're going to come and try and disrupt Newcastle's play. And that's absolutely fine. That's exactly what you would expect. Yeah, exactly. They're going to come. They're going to park people behind the ball. They're going to throw themselves into tackles. They're going to kick. They're going to get in people's faces, do the things that Tyler Adams was doing in particular. And Newcastle have to deal with that. And that's a new learning curve for them, because they've never really had to deal with that before. They've always been the one dishing that out. So yeah, apologies. The cat's now decided to get behind the sideboard next to us.
Don't worry, I'll take over, Mark. I'll take over.
You finish this. I'm just going to go sort him out. Honestly,
Mark just needs to sort his pussy out. It's out of control. Where's them dodgy sex bot comments? They'll be coming in a minute. But yeah, I mean, Gibbo's got a point there. Still a point, clean sheet. Could have been worse. You're absolutely right, lads. Mark's also just weighing in saying Shelby and Longstaff need to go if we're going to hit Europe. I think, to be fair, we'll come on to transfers in a minute, Mark, but I think Shelby's done anyway. I think Shelby's finished. I think that injury's probably seen him off in terms of his Newcastle career. I don't think his body can deal with the press. Again, that was a piece I put up on the site, guys. If you check it out when Mark gets the link under there. I don't think Shelby's body can deal with the press anymore, and that's why he's fallen to bits a little bit. Shelby can still do a job on another team when you surround him with young legs running around and everything else, but he can't play in this pressing side anymore, in my opinion. Ross is saying that's funny as we're third with them. Absolutely. Yeah, fucking hilarious for Liverpool. Tommy's saying there could be a spin-off pod for the cat. Absolutely.
Got his own fan club now.
Why not? Fucking hell, we might get some more subscribers, mate. Jack saying it just stuck to a team who couldn't live with our tempo. I do agree with that. So just had to disrupt as much as possible. Do you know what's funny, Jack? One of my mates is a Leeds fan, Phil. He's been on the channel before, Mark, as he's a top lad, Phil. And I texted him during the game, And I just said to him, you are an awful, awful side. And he just texted me back, I don't disagree. So even the Leeds fans are aware how shit they are. And a lot of the Leeds fans, do you know what, Mark? I was going to say this actually before we came on, but there's a lot of similarities between Newcastle United and Leeds, right? And think of it in the Rafa time, from us going from Rafa to going to Bruce, right? They had Bielsa, and Bielsa had this identity and this front foot style of play that they absolutely adored. They were as open as Sharon Stone's legs at the back, as I always say, but they were great going forward. And they played it they played with tempo, they played with press. It was exciting to go and watch. The Leeds fans adored it. The guy was, adored in the city by the fans. He lived in a fucking bed sit. He went to Costa Coffee in the services, all sorts of stuff. He went and they basically got in, the American Steve Bruce, and they can't stand the bloke. Half of them can't stand the bloke. So Leeds are in a very similar position to us. So I think as fan bases, we can relate a little bit, mate, can't we, to what they're going through, I suppose.
Yeah. Here's a question, though. Have they moved on? Have they moved forward at all?
Not at all. They're playing worse football, and they're in the same league position. So,
Bielsa left. I think they were in 17th. They're in, 15th or 14th now? They haven't moved on as a football club. They haven't got a new identity under Jesse March. It seemed to have come out early on where they were much more pragmatic, probably the word, and they weren't quite as in your face as they perhaps were under Bielsa. But then they seem to have lost that, and they've almost, at the weekend it reverted back to very much almost an Argentinian style of kick everybody on the field. That's that real hard-nosed South American sort of thing where it's really flying. I'm going back like probably the 90s version. Go fly into tackles and kick everybody, go and disrupt the game and then try and just sneak something out of it. It just felt like a side devoid of ideas, and other than just try and stop the opposition. And to be fair, and we've said it, it's exactly what Newcastle did under Steve Bruce.
We hated it, Mark. We hated it under Steve Bruce. It was fucking awful, man. Some of the Leeds fans were jumping to the defence of Jesse Marsh when you were digging them out on Twitter. I would have been embarrassed if my team went away from home and played like that. I know we're one of the top 3 sides in the league, right? But at least make a fucking effort to try and score a goal. They were horrendous, man. Yeah,
look, I'm not going to be too harsh because we've seen it before, and you've seen it when you're down in that every in that group at the bottom, every point is vital. So I'm not going to completely dig them out for it in terms of that, in that regard. But yeah, you've got to at least try and play a little bit of football to go. Even Bournemouth were shithouse, trying to put people behind the ball. But at least at times they sort of played out and they tried to do things a little bit. It might have only happened 5 minutes out of the 90, but at least they tried something. Leeds very much were negative throughout. There was a couple of fleeting moments, but it all came from sort of longer balls, or it came from pinging a ball out wide, and that was pretty much it. They were awful, but
they got the job done.
They got the job done. They kept Newcastle at bay largely, kept the score to 0-0. So job done. Well done.
Yeah. I do think, again, I don't want to dig out single players. I did this on the post-match, but I do think if those chances that fall to Sean fall to Bruno or Joe Linton, it's 1 or 2-0. Chris Wood, I don't care what anybody says, he would get a little bit of love before the game. And, he's got 2 and 3 games, both penalties. He's about as mobile as a traffic cone. And I look at him in open play, and he can't do fuck all in open play. The game passes him by. He's literally like, if you're standing on a motorway waiting to cross, like cars, that's Chris Wood watching us play. People are saying we're not getting the ball in the box for him. He can't fucking move. That's why you can't get the ball in the box for him. When Trippier crosses the ball, I don't know where he is, but he's not in the fucking box.
23 crosses against Leeds. 23
Where was he, though? Where was he?
Now,
exactly.
I'll give a little bit of that because I think Newcastle missed a massive trick after early on, because from the first 10, 15, 20 minutes, when Newcastle put the ball in the box from corners, free kicks or a general play, they caused absolute havoc. and then it almost stopped. And you're like, okay, well, this isn't Leeds changing anything. This is just Newcastle. I mean, there was at one point that just caused complete havoc in the 6-yard box, and the next corner was a short one. And you go, come on, you've just seen how poorly Leeds defended this. You've got to keep that pressure up and put the ball in the box. And there's some big players in that Newcastle side.
Yeah.
But when you talk about giving the opportunity to Chris Wood, when you put 23 crosses in the box, you want him getting on the end of them. That's what he is designed for.
That's what he's meant to do. Yeah, that's what he's meant to do. But
in fairness, he's gotten nowhere near them.
He's fucking shite, Mark. He's honestly like, I'm getting angry thinking about it. Right, like the first half when the keeper comes out and flaps at nothing, and he takes that touch. I think Eddie Howe was being kind to him. I saw a few pods afterwards being quite kind to him. He just fucking roll it in the back of the net. The keeper was out of the goal. Roll it in the back of the net. But the one in the second half when it comes right across the box of him, just put your laces through it and take the keeper's head off. Like, what was he trying to do with that one?
I think that just is a confidence thing, isn't it? With him, he's not really that kind of striker.
A good one.
And he just well, but he's not that sort of that calm. And you sort of, it's almost the same as when you look at Longstaff going through. There's almost that panic that you want the ball high for him, and he'll finish. He's good off the deck when it comes to a penalty. He's brilliant at that. He has to treat the ball during normal play almost as if it's like a penalty, because he just doesn't have the composure as a Wilson or somebody else in that regard, just to play the ball right in that. He's almost trying too hard.
Well, there's possibly that. I mean, Mark's saying there he's a bit slow. He's a feeder. He likes to be fed. Mark, you could take this guy to an all-you-can-eat buffet and the fucker would miss his mouth half the time. That's how shite he is, mate. I'm not having it, honestly. I'm fed up at the sight of the bloke. I really am. To coin the phrase, his air shot was unforgivable, like shit. Absolutely, mate. It was totally shit. Tommy's making a really good point.
That's not the first one he's had this season as well. I've seen another, and you're just like, you've got to do better. Mate, as a Premier League football that's cost that much honestly, money.
He's got more fresh air than the fucking Lake District, that bloke. He really has. So Tommy Gill saying, how has Burn not scored from a corner yet? Do you know what, Mark? I can't get my head around this either, right? He's about 7'3", and he must have a heat like a 50 pence piece, because every time he's in the box, it just doesn't do it. I mean, he had probably his clearest chance yet when the ball dropped him. He swung a leg in, and I thought that's in the back of the net, and he still managed to fluff that, didn't he?
Yeah, it's an interesting one with Burn, isn't it? Because he's so big, and you just think you've got to get on the end. I just don't think he reads it very well in that position. No. He's great at the back. I mean, I know we've seen him get caught under the ball a couple of times at the back, particularly last season, not so much this season. But I just don't think he reads the flight of the ball very well from corners. No. He's too busy trying. Whoever's marking him has usually got such a grip that he can't work his way out of it to get a free run. So it's difficult in that regard. But having him there, it creates the space for the likes of Botman, the likes of Wood, Shaw, if he's in and around that, to be able to get on the end of things. So he's worth his weight in gold in that regard, because the opposition spends so much time concentrating on the fact that he's 6'7", that they leave others, or they allow others to get a run on it. So it's an odd one. But even having said that, there's not been many set piece goals, have there? In that would be not scoring many headers from corners.
Well, we did score one in the last game against Leicester with Joe Linton. But just a point of comment there, guys. If you are new to the channel, I've seen a couple of new names tonight. Make sure you smash the subscribe button. We'd love you to come and join us and help us grow this community. Just a comment there from the new monkey. I agree with this, Mark. Just before we get into this, if anyone hasn't seen the TikTok clip going round of Bruno telling one of the Leeds players he's got a small cock, I'd much imagine was what he was saying. He just kept going, "You're very small. You're very small." It's brilliant. So just before we get into the comment, the new monkey says about Bruno losing his head. That bit was funny, doing this, you're small. But yeah, I agree with the new monkey, Mark, that him and Joe Linton and Wilson, I think, were very lucky, mate, weren't they? Not to get some punishment for the way they were behaving.
Yeah, I mean, you get the frustration of them, because they put their all into it, and they're seeing the opposition be a shithouse. I know we've used that phrase an awful lot tonight. But they've got to learn to keep it, and by losing their heads in that regard, Leeds have won, because Leeds have already gone, well, we're under your skin now, so if we keep doing this, you're going to lose your mind even more, and we might get rid of one or two of you. And to be fair, I know I said I messaged you during the game saying Joe was lucky when he raises his hands. He's so lucky, and another day that could be given as a red card. We've seen it happen, and then Bruno as well. He's just got to temper. I love the attitude. I love the fact that he's frustrated and he's wanting to get on with things, and he's not going to take any shit from anybody. But he's right. He has to just temper that a little bit and use it in a way that's beneficial on the pitch.
Absolutely. Well, we have got a big game coming up tomorrow against Arsenal. We'll have our match preview up in the morning. Let's just see if Newcastle can bounce back and, maybe get a win after this frustrating game against Leeds. We probably should have won that game, but it will be a total different test against Arsenal. But we'll be looking forward to it, I'm sure. Hopefully the lads can do the business. But moving on to just some other fresh talks. Now, the transfer window's open, as everybody knows. On the Leeds game, I think I made a comment on the post-match, Mark, didn't I? That I couldn't believe some of the fans were so dismissive of the links with Youri Tielemans, which blew my fucking mind, to be honest with you. You're talking about a top class midfielder, 25 years old, Belgian international, scores goals for fun, great creative midfielder, can get stuck in as well. If you put Youri Tielemans in Sean Longstaff boots against Leeds, one of them's going in, mate, aren't they?
I think so. I think he's in that scenario. He's much calmer, isn't he? He's much more likely to take an opportunity. Now, I know from what we said before. Look, we're not saying that we don't think Longstaff should be playing. We don't want him sold. We don't want him dropped. It's not
he's
that.
Good at certain things. Yeah.
If he gets in that position, I think at that point what you see is Tielemans hit the target. At least test the goalkeeper. There were those couple of opportunities for Sean at the weekend where they go miles over the bar. I mean, he genuinely looks like he's been taking lessons from Johnny Wilkinson, because he's absolutely skying that. But I just want to bring this is the stats side we did for the Rumour Has It video on Tielemans the other week, and you've only got to look at his sort of goal contributions per 90 minutes over the last 5 years. And to look at his goals and assists, he's got 53 goal contributions in 177 games for Leicester. I know that's 1 in 3, but obviously they get an awful lot from the likes of Barnes and Maddison. He's just a very, very good footballer, and he gets into those positions very, very well. The comparison there, I think, is a little bit unfair against Bruno, because Bruno's just been immense since he's come to Newcastle. But I think you look at those goals, though, particularly the goal contributions over the last sort of 3 years, and they've been exceptional. And you put him into that position, and I genuinely think you get somebody who hits the target, works the goalkeeper, and creates the option or the opening for somebody else at the very least.
Yeah. Just to take that comment to coin the phrase, the argument he's heard against Tielemans is that he lacks pace. Everyone's obsessed with pace in this modern day game. You need pace, You're right, Mark. It's the quickness of thought. It's the quickness of thought. Some of the best players we've ever seen play the game weren't blessed with blistering pace. People like Zidane even, and people like that, Xavi and Iniesta, these kind of guys, they weren't full of pace, but they were quick thinkers. They'd be 2 or 3 passes in, and they'd already picked the killer pass for the goal, or they'd already picked the shot for to beat the keeper. Tielemans, I'm not saying he's as good as them, but he's in that kind of that bracket of he doesn't need blistering pace. And when you look at our side, you've got pace. And the likes of Miguel Almiron, Isak's got pace. Sorry, I needed the chat there. Isak's got pace. Wilson's got pace. Max has got pace when he plays. We've got pace on that side. Joe Linton's not the slowest either. Do you know what I mean? Willock's got a bit of speed about him. But, you don't need Tielemans to have pace. I would say Tielemans' brain is way more beneficial to a Newcastle United squad than his pace. because he could hit a through ball into Mickey making that run, and then Bruno doesn't have to do it all the time. Bruno can drift off and do other things. He can get himself in more dangerous positions as well. I think the only argument against Tielemans, I think I would have, Mark, and I think I said this in a transfer piece I did, that can Bruno and Tielemans work together? Can they both play in the same side, or do you have to have a 6 or a 4, as PK would say, sitting behind them to get the best out of those two? Now, we have been linked to a young lad, which we're going to do a rumour has it video on, hopefully coming up the next day or so, which is Alan Varela from Boca Juniors. He's only a young lad, 21 years old, but he looks like he eats fucking broken glass for breakfast and washes it down with motor oil. He looks like an absolute monster in defensive midfield, tackles anything that moves, really controlled, passer of the ball, great touch, typical South American midfielder, Mark. So there seems to be a bit of movement in this 18 million euro bid. It's popping up in a lot of news outlets, isn't it? That could be a player that could sit into that midfield quite well and allow someone like a Bruno and a Tielemans to just push on a bit, couldn't it?
Definitely. Look, I think that there's good comment here from Ross about maybe he's waiting for an Arsenal move.
Possibly that, Ross. Yeah.
I'm not entirely sure.
Will that come?
Well, I was just about to say that. Given the way that they're playing now, I'm not entirely sure that that's an option for him anymore.
Yeah.
But look, I think Varela is a good player. If that rumor is true, 18 million seems a snip. It's reported to be his release clause, so that they've no choice if that is met.
Accept him. Yeah.
He fits the bill, doesn't he? That young, hungry player to bring in, even if he's not going to come in and start straight away. He comes in, he bolsters the squad. He has the talent to come in and play straight away. I've got to be honest, from the little bit that I've seen, he looks a star in the making. I think one of the things I labelled on the slide for the Rumour Has It video for you is he'd been labelled as the new Sergio Busquets. Now, if he's anywhere near Busquets level, then he's going to be a mega star. So that's one to keep an eye on, because he comes in and then he does free up Bruno to not have to play quite so deep at times.
Push a bit further up, absolutely, and be more influential.
Well, what I wanted to bring up was just this player influence, and it kind of went quite nicely that just where Bruno's influence on the pitch is, and it's right the way through the middle of the park. You could not get any more almost box to box in that regard, and he covers so much ground. Now, if you can isolate sort of the defensive side of things away from him a little bit and allow him to be much more influential further forward, he's so good on the ball and he's so good in that final third. You get probably even more of an output out of him in terms of goals and assists. So if you can bring in somebody like this Argentinian kid, I think it's an absolute no-brainer.
But he's been likened to Enzo Fernandez, who's obviously just won the World Cup with Argentina. Everyone's talking about is worth 100 million quid now. So if he's anywhere near that kid's level, he'll be great. But just on the Bruno point, I think a player like that can sit and let either, if it's him or Joe Linton, if it's him and Tielemans, whoever it may be, him and Joe Linton, let's just say in a minute, if someone can sit and let those guys go while they protect any breaks coming their way, I think Bruno could get 10 to 12 goals a season. I really do. I think he's that good in that position when he gets on the edge of the box and the way he strikes the ball. I think he could easily get 10 to 12 goals a season. So it could be a very exciting move. But I think definitely the midfield is an area we're looking to strengthen. I don't think defensively we'll maybe get anyone outside of possibly as a Harrison Ashby from West Ham on a free. I think it's backup for Trippier. I think he's probably going to come in. But I think Maddison's still an option. But just to pull up Tommy's comment there about Dubravka coming back, it's like you read our mind, mate. So yeah, that was an interesting one. So this popped up obviously on the club social media. Then Dubravka did a little bit of an Insta post about it, which he got some shit for. So Martin Dubravka's obviously come back. Now this throws a bit of a spanner in the works, Mark, for the goalkeeper side. But just a little break from that before I get your take on it being our resident keeper. Maddison's still very much on the agenda, I think. Still very much the club are interested. I think the player wants to come. Now, all of a sudden, Dubravka coming back from a loan recall. Is there a little bit of something in there? Cash plus Dubravka? Because the story's going around is that Leicester are interested in Dubravka, which I think Dan has put in the comments there. That Leicester want Dubravka, and reports are saying Karius is leaving. So throwing over to you, Mark, as a resident keeper, do you think Karius is on his bike and Dubravka stays number 2? Or do you think Dubravka is going to be used as a make weight?
It could be both. I mean, it would be strange to let them both go in that regard. But
yeah,
look, I think some of the reports were that Dubravka wanted to come back. He didn't want to just continually sit on the bench at Manchester United. I think when he felt that he was the better goalkeeper, it's an interesting take if that one is true.
Humble.
But it's, look, if you can, you want as much out of Dubravka as I think you can get. And I think if you can use him as a make weight in a deal, particularly with somebody like Maddison, again, I think that's a no-brainer. It helps with FFP. It helps get wages off to use towards the new player. The other side of things, I think, is an interesting one. Does Darlow, like Margaret there says, does Darlow go? Does Darlow the make weight?
Possibly.
It's a tricky one. You don't let. I think you could.
Sorry, that's brilliant, Sammy. Well done, mate. Sorry, Mark.
I think he might have more chance of Champions League football next season if he stays. So
possibly.
Not that he'll play, but
yeah.
I think if you're going to let Karius go, I think you probably keep the 3 then. To me, that would seem daft. I think you've got 2 very sellable assets in Darlow and Dubravka, 2 different sort of values.
And decent keepers as well. Decent keepers.
They are.
On the day.
And especially if somewhere like Leicester, I think both are an upgrade. Well, maybe Darlow's on equal par with Danny Ward, but Dubravka's a massive upgrade on Danny Ward.
Yeah, definitely. And they need a number 1. I think they need a better goalkeeper. Yeah.
I like Danny Ward, but I don't think he's at that level. And I think, yes, we know Dubravka's not perfect, but he's certainly an upgrade. And I think they would do well with him. They have other issues though, so I'm not so sure that they would focus on a goalkeeper unless it was part of another deal. So I think we talked about this back in the summer, didn't we? We suggested when Pope came in that does Dubravka then become used as a bargaining chip for Maddison then, and that was when we were talking about 60-70 million for Maddison then. If you can knock 15-20 million off based on sending them a goalkeeper, then that massively helps.
Absolutely. I mean, and obviously Maddison's coming towards the final year of his contract. I think Tielemans only got 6 months. Maddison's got, I think, just about a year. So they're in a bit of a pickle as Leicester. Now, there was a lot of people drawing up the dots when he didn't play against us. I think he was generally still injured, but then when he didn't play again the week after, Rodgers was in a press conference. He looked really uncomfortable, didn't he, when he was asked about Maddison? His body language was all off. He was kind of looking out the side of his eye. He was pulling faces and stuff. So I think there might be a little bit of truth in the fact that Maddison maybe wanted to go in the summer. He stayed with Leicester to get them out of the shit. And he's maybe said to them, look, I'll stay to get you out of the shit, but I want to move in January. If Newcastle is still in for me, I want to move. He seems to be making all the right noises, flirting with us on the YouTube videos for England and everything else. So I think there's definitely a bit of room in this. But I suppose the big question is that Eddie House talked about FFP. Maddison would cost you, let's just say, I don't know, we went in with 40 million in the summer and they rebuffed it. They wanted 60, wasn't it? So if realistically we're talking about 45 million and Dubravka for 10 million, there's 55. The Leicester break of that? Did they budget that, Mark?
I don't know. I think we'll go back. I think when you were talking about Rodgers being uncomfortable before, I think he fully expected to have Maddison back available by now. And maybe they've had to be cautious with injuries, but he did look a little bit uncomfortable. But then I think at times Brendan Rodgers always looks uncomfortable when he's talking.
Too much sunbeds. Too many sunbeds. Yeah, that's what it is.
I think
bad for you.
Given given Leicester's financial position, we know it's not brilliant because we know they're on really tight budgets. If that bid comes in, I don't see how they turn it down. I can see
said there in the comments, if they want Dubravka, well, we're already at the table. I think if they want Dubravka, but we've got the bargaining chip.
Absolutely, I can see them holding off and not selling both. But again, do you lose Tielemans for nothing in the summer?
Yeah,
and he could be angling for a move to Europe, in which case he stays.
Yeah.
From he can start to talk to teams in Europe now, and arrange a transfer for the summer without doing anything else. So he potentially then stays. Then they look at getting as much as they can for Maddison. I think you're right. I think if Dubravka's on the table, I think that deal is there to be done, and it's clear that Maddison wants a better club. He wants to be back playing at the higher level. I think Newcastle have proved now that they are in that category. They're not title challengers, not far off, but they're not title challengers. They're having a bloody good season. But it goes to show if he was to come in now, does that absolutely give Newcastle the kick into guaranteed Champions League football next season?
Could very well be. As Gibbo says there, that's got to be why we record Dubz. I absolutely agree with you. Stephen's just jumped in the comments. Good to see you, Stephen. We've just been talking about Big Al. I'm going to call him Big Al from now on, just to get that flavour of him coming in. Big Al number 2, Mark 2. But I love the fact that Barcelona are pissed off that we're going to get him. I think that's amazing. I really hope that is true, because I just love pissing off Europe's elite. But going back to the transfer market, I mean, obviously I think the Athletic have talked about it. I think Craig Hope's talked about it. Eddie Howe wants a 6 because Eddie Howe is a very clever manager, and he knows that's what we're lacking in that midfield. He knows we're lacking a sitter, somebody who can do the dirty work. I always go back to that 3-3 against City. Had we had a player like that even to come off the bench and just sit and stop De Bruyne making those passes, we'd have won that game. But we didn't have that player in the squad. Joe Linton lacks that discipline because he's too eager to get up and he's great at carrying the ball. Joe Willock the same. You don't want Bruno back there because Bruno's better at the other end of the park, so you're kind of stuck a little bit. Sean Longstaff, as we said, is a good player, but he lacks that kind of discipline as well, I suppose, in this game. Adam, who does the channel with us, he mentioned why not bring back Isaac Hayden. For me, Isaac Hayden's not good enough. I think he gives away too many fouls, so that isn't for me. There's another player that's been talked about, but I think he's definitely too expensive for us, and I can see him, well, if you listen to Jurgen Klopp cry poverty, maybe not, but is it Moses Caicedo from Brighton, the Ecuadorian, smashing player, really good, number 6. Sits in deep, breaks that play up. Kind of reminds me a little bit of what Kante used to be like at Leicester. I think he would be superb for us. But I don't know whether we will get him, Mark, because I think they're going to want about 70 million quid for him. And I think that blows a lot of the budget, mate, doesn't it?
I think that's at that value. I think that's a non-starter. I think interestingly, is he the player that's only on about $3,500 a week?
Something daft like that. They've got him on like
hell of it, honestly. Yeah. For somebody that's cost you next to nothing, and you're paying him an absolute pittance,
that's how they got him.
If you can get anywhere north of 50 is a sensational deal. But they're going to hold out for as much as possible because that would mean so much in terms of their ability to then go out and buy different players for different positions, especially when you think that they're probably on the verge of losing players like Trossard. So they're going to need a wealth of cash to be able to go out and start to buy the next versions, aren't they?
Well, speaking of a wealth of cash, there's a nice little segue to that comment there from Leeds off. Ronaldo comes to Newcastle next season. We finish top 4. There's a thing in his contract. We're going to come on that in a second, Lee, which is absolutely well. We'll pull that story up now in terms of the Ronaldo story. But the other bit was absolutely bollocks. So this has been doing the rounds on Twitter. I think it was from is it Marca, the Spanish press. So according to Marca, there's a clause in Ronaldo's contract that will allow him to leave Al Nassr if Newcastle qualify for the Champions League next season. Utter fucking drivel, in my opinion. I don't think that's going to happen at all. I don't think Eddie Howe would want him. I think he'd walk.
There's 2 things here. One, it might be in his contract. That's fine. He can have probably whatever he wants in his contract. Doesn't mean Newcastle have to sign him. It's not in Newcastle's contract. It's in no way near Eddie Howe's plans to bring him in. Is he going to want to bring in a 39-year-old next season? A 39-year-old that we've seen has passed the peak of his powers, has been a disruptive influence in the dressing room. No, it's not going to happen. It might be in his contract. He might want it there. He might want the ability to do it. No, thank you.
Exactly. He monumentally fails the no dickhead policy test that PK quite often puts forward.
He is the picture. He is the silhouette on the T-shirt of PK's no dickhead policy T-shirt. So
yeah. Well, there you go. There you go. Ross has said someone's already poo-pooed it. Said it's a load of bollocks anyway. But we're going to have a look at Ronaldo's very low wages in a minute. So I can't see why he would come to us, because it would he certainly wouldn't get the same level of cash, I'm pretty sure. But
he'd still be getting paid off.
Oh,
I was going to say I was about bringing off. He'd still be getting paid off them. So let's
bring it up. I mean, obviously Ronaldo's riches. Let's bring it up. We can dip back in the transfer window in a second. So if you bring that back up, Mark, and let's just see the ridiculousness of what this fucking guy's on. So this is in euros here. So just to make anybody cry, especially come January the 2nd, where everybody's fucking skinned from Christmas, you're all looking at your bank balance and going, Jesus Christ, when do I get paid? This bloke, as Mark said there, he was like 38-year-old and acts like a fucking 7-year-old who's run out of sweets, is on 200 million euro a year. That's 16.6 million euro a month, 3.8 million euro a week, 547,000 euro per day, 22,800 euro per hour, 380 euro per minute, and €6.34 per second. So he's probably earned, nearly 700 euro by the time I've just explained that, Mark. it's just fucking
sick. I genuinely just feel sick. And all this talk beforehand about him, he wants to play at the highest level, and he doesn't want to move to be about money and bullshit. Absolute bullshit. You have gone there for one reason and one reason only, and that's the money. And fair play, if you can get it, that's fine. I'm not going to begrudge you getting it because somebody's dumb enough to pay you it.
Ridiculous.
You haven't done it for any other reason than for the money.
Yeah. I would love to have seen Messi reading that tweet somewhere, just laughing his knackers off with his World Cup winners medal. just pissing himself laughing, reading that, going, well, he's got a lot of money, but everyone thinks he's a fucking prick. But one of the best things is Piers Morgan's got an absolute hype about the whole thing, isn't he? It disappears.
Funny that, isn't it? Yeah. I was going to say this be Messi just reading the tweet as he's gearing up for his next Champions League game.
Yeah, exactly. When he's played alongside Kylian Mbappe and Neymar. Yes, you enjoy your fun in the sun, Ronaldo. But it is obscene. It's like some kind of Aladdin's cave, Arabian Nights fucking thing where he's just rubbed the lamp and got all the riches in the world. Prince Ali, fabulous what a shit house, basically. So that's what he is. But yeah, it's just, I don't know. I don't think Newcastle will ever have this guy back. We'll always be linked to him because of the Saudi links, but I don't think he's coming in this transfer window. Just finishing up in the transfer window, I don't think we'll sign a striker as long as Isak and Wilson can stay fit, Mark. I don't think we'll sign a striker. Marcus Thuram's already said that he doesn't want to go to Newcastle. He's not interested, so fuck him. One of the better word, move on. If he's not interested, bollocks to him. And that's what we'll say about that.
At the end of the day, you want players that want to be here. If he doesn't want to come, he wants to go elsewhere. I think he's angling for a move to Italy. Fair enough. Go and play in Italy. Go and enjoy yourself. Fine, we'll move. Everybody will move on.
Well, absolutely. But just moving on back to a little bit about the current squad. There was just a fantastic thing that happened during the Leeds game, which we did talk about it in the post match, but just to pull it up again. So this was Pele's Bruno tribute. I beg your pardon. Fucking Bruno's Pele tribute. Fucking hell, wrong way around there. So I beg your pardon. My mistake. Bruno's Pele tribute. There we go. So I was thinking, it was funny. I was watching another podcast. And I was laughing because somebody didn't realize who the player was and why they were wearing a yellow shirt and why it was number 10 and all that stuff. And they didn't quite realize what it was until, a couple of seconds later, which is quite humorous. But I was thinking, did all the Brazilian national players get this? Because obviously Joe didn't have one, and he had one, which I'm sure Joe was a bit livid when he saw that and said, all right, you made me look like a bit of a dick here. But I thought it was all the international players that wore it, but nobody else wore one, did they? I didn't see Casemiro wearing one. And Anthony was so shit that he just lifted up his shirt and he scribbled on with a Sharpie, like, "Rest in peace, Pele," or something like that, which I thought was really fucking crap, really, of Anthony. Mate.
Yeah, I think some did, some didn't. Some did special tribute. Some did scribble on their t-shirts and stuff, and each to their own. But I think that, I mean, it's such a touching thing to be wearing a the yellow and green with,
of course,
and it's signed as well, wasn't it? And to sort of wear that as a tribute on the. I said to you the other day about this when I think it was the West Ham game when they did the tribute, visibly emotional. Because it's just a realization of just what this guy meant to football. I mean, he was football. He was Brazil. It was just everything you think of that's special about football. You just conjure up the image of the Pele in the late 50s and early 60s, and you just that just makes you smile. And I just thought that was a lovely tribute from Bruno to be wearing the shirt anyway. And I guess it's a little bit more meaningful, I guess, that it was just the one, and maybe it's that Joe wasn't wearing one as well, so it very much stood out in amongst the black and white that you just had a shirt there. So
quite visual. Yeah. I just think it's because Joe Linton's just given up on Brazil. He wants to play for England now. I think that's just what it is, because he's been here long enough now. So Joe's angling for a place in the next Euro squad.
He's already got his Geordie citizenship. So
yeah, but it's funny about Pele because all these fantastic stories have come out. I think he's almost lying in state in Brazil, because in Brazil he's as big as what the Queen was in this country when she passed. That's how big it is to Brazil. And I urge anybody to watch the clips of whatever you've seen now. Pele did it first, and there's so many of these eerie clips of Zidane doing things, of Cristiano Ronaldo doing things. Pele was doing these back in the 50s and the 60s and the 70s, and it's just unbelievable. It really is. But my dad told me a really good story, actually, which was from one of the lads in the social club, where all the best stories come from, as everybody knows. And there was a guy in the social club who had met Pele years ago. I don't know, it was a talk, or whatever it was. And he had like this memorabilia stuff with him. And he had these pair of boots with him that he'd had for years. And he was, and the guy said, "Oh, what are they?" And he said, "Oh, these are boots that I've had for years." And the guy was looking at these boots. He couldn't get his head around why these boots were they had different colors, different bits of leather in these boots. And he says, "Why are those boots like that? Why have you got different bits of color in there and there and there?" And he said, "All right." He said, "Because what I did was, over the years," he went, "I figured out if I hit a shot with the outside of my foot, that was the red bit. If I hit it with the inside, that was it." And the fucking guy back then had labeled the part of his boot with a color, so he knew which end to hit it with to get the certain type of shot. Which, if you think about how far ahead of its time that was, Mark, is just unbelievable, isn't it? Like, what a player, man! What a man!
That's almost the Adidas Predator, where you start sticking rubber balls to the outside of boots to try and. But he was. You're right when you say about things that came first. I mean, the famous one, isn't it, is the Cruyff turn. This whole ring about that turn that Johan Cruyff did. And then there's clips of him from the 50s doing it. And you go, it would never have been picked up at the time, because he was playing for Santos in Brazil, wasn't he? So it would never have been picked up in the wider world at that point. But he'd been there and he'd done it. And the chances are he's probably taken that from somebody else. So a lot of his game he will have got from other people from the previous sort of 10 years. So, he's just a magical footballer. And
these things existed. I mean, you think about likes of George Best, even guys like that, when the cameras weren't watching what he did. It was only a few games that they caught him on camera, and the things he would have done when the cameras weren't watching, not on the pitch, not off the pitch. For George Best, I'm pretty sure that would have been interesting as well. But I mean, on the pitch, you know what I mean? But great comment here from Gibbo. Infantino, what a weapon that guy is, by the way. Wants every country to name a stadium with Pele in its name. Meant. I mean, we'd be okay. We just call it St. James's Pele, would we?
I think that was that Danny's suggestion to us on Twitter.
Yeah, I think so.
Mine was Wempele.
Wempele, I like that.
Wempele.
I like that.
Instead of obviously
good.
Into the Wembley, it was.
Leicester got the best one. Just call it King Pele. That's the best one. The King Pele Stadium. Pele. That's probably the best one, to be fair. Which is great. Yeah, we've got a good comment there from Stephen. Happy New Year, lads. Hope it's a great one for all the magnificent Geordies. Absolutely, mate. Absolutely brilliant. We've got a nice comment there from Throckley saying the YouTube channel is fantastic. It's not just my channel, mate. This wonderful bastard next to me. It's a duo. We're like Ant and Deck, the Ant and Deck of Newcastle United podcasts. But we've got a great team here. But thank you so much for those comments, Throckley and John. Subscribe if you haven't already, bud. There's loads more of this coming. But yeah, so I think, kind of ending up on the Pele thing. It is. I think it's the ripples through football because he's such an influential figure in the game, and he's a legend. I think Cafu said it best. He's eternal. He's immortal. He'll live on forever. His influence on the game, his influence on the players, the things that we see our favorite players do now that we love. He did it years. The game wouldn't be what it is now. So may you rest in peace, mate. Thanks for everything that you did, Pele. I would say.
Absolutely. I think. Look, as a kind of final touch. When you say eternally, you look at any football fan in the world, they all know his name.
Absolutely.
It doesn't matter age, it doesn't matter where who you support, where you're from, you know his name. And there are probably so few players that you can say that about. Obviously the likes of Maradona and Zidane and stuff, but if you go back into that era, there's very few that will stand out across the world, regardless of where you're from and who you are. His name is just synonymous with football, and he's just it's sad, but celebrate the fact that we might not have got to watch him live, but we've been able to watch certainly clips of him and bits of him playing, and it just So
absolutely, mate. Well said. I mean, there's only 4 real players. The world class gets thrown around way too much. There's only 4 genuine world class players that have played football, and he's one of them. And you mentioned another one of them there before, and the other 2, one of them's earning 65 quid per millisecond, and the other one's still playing the Champions League. So.
I'd argue. I think there's a couple more that you could throw in from sort of that era that were.
I'm talking about the next level, like the immortals, the eternals of football, so to speak, the immortals, if you will. They're the 4.
Throwing a Puskás and somebody like that, or
I suppose, yeah, I'll give you that. But I suppose in the 21st century, I'm saying, I suppose.
But again, how many of those? Let's say the very young fans that how many of those will have heard of Ferenc Puskás or
that's exactly it.
Of players that now they might have done, but
half of these little wet wipes think fucking Aguero's a better striker than Alan Shearer, man. Don't get me started on those little fucking morons. I've got a clue what they're talking about. Half of them. Do some history for God's sake. But anyway, we've got far too deep there. What's going on is all about the crack, and we are going to end on some seriously good crack here. So this has been doing the rounds for quite a few days now, and it made every single one of us piss ourselves with laughter. So I can't tell, Mark, whether this is a wind-up or whether this is cars in the shop or whatever, but Big Dan Burn, little car. So this was pictured of obviously Big Dan Burn driving his little motor to training with a couple of young lasses getting the signature there, mate. I mean, this is just fucking brilliant, isn't it? You couldn't ask for better social media banner than this, could you, mate?
Who's he nicked the car from? I mean, it's got to be his mum's. Really. Well, I think one of the comments I saw online was, "Is that Ryan Fraser's car?" It's so funny, and it's so. It just instantly reminds us. Do you remember the scene from The Simpsons?
Yes,
when Nelson's laughing at the really tall guy that's in the car. It's just brilliant. It's one of those stand-up things, and it's so innocent, isn't it? He's just driving a car out of train or whatever. You just think that's just brilliant. It's just the biggest guy in the club driving the smallest car. I
love that. Who said it was Ryan Fraser's car? That is just fucking amazing. That who's come up with that? Absolutely superb. Yeah, absolutely superb. But it's funny actually because you were talking about the guy from The Simpsons there. I think we've got a comment coming in there actually about that very thing, saying I think the Simpsons have done it again. I think with their predictions is what they're saying, mate, aren't they?
Yeah, absolutely right. It just I love things like that, and it's just it's just perfect. It's perfect for this show, isn't it? It's just
that was the
perfect.
fella. That was him right there, wasn't it?
Absolutely
The guy in The Simpsons. That is Dan Burn. Big Dan Burn going to training with his glasses on. Absolutely fucking class. Unbelievable. Unbelievable. As the guys have said there, like I say, Sicily too, and Jack have already said The Simpsons. But it's absolutely brilliant. But it just goes to show you, like I say, the feel-good nature going on now with the club, and everyone's having a bit of a crack, and it's wonderful to see. It really is, mate. But I think that's us pretty much wrapped up for this week's episode of What's Going On. Thank you so much to everybody in the comments. It really helps the channel flow, and we've had a few new names in there. So as we mentioned before, if you haven't already, smash that subscribe button. Come and join us. We've got loads of room for you on the channel. Like I said, there's 2 live shows, Mondays and Wednesdays. We should be back hopefully on the Wednesday with the rest of the lads, just to maybe look at how the Arsenal game's gone, talk about some of the transfer links and everything else. And very important, if you can like this video as well, it really helps get it around YouTube. But until then, Mark and I are going to fuck off and let you lot go to bed, because a lot of you'll have work tomorrow, back to the doom and gloom. So I'm off, as you can see. That's why I'm still happy and smiling.
Back to normal. Well, no, I'm not back till Thursday, so I've got a couple of days grace. So
you've got one day on me, you shit house. You kept that quiet, didn't you? Never mind. Anyway. Have a great day at work, guys, whatever you're doing, and keep supporting that team with United. Let's hope we get 3 points tomorrow, and we'll be back, I'm sure, for a bit of post-match at the Arsenal game as well. We'll see you later.
Take care, guys.
Cheers, guys.